Mice and Men is a critically acclaimed, third-person novel written in 1937 by John Steinbeck. The third-person story follows the tragedy of two farmers trying to work during the Great Depression. It follows the two main characters, George and Lenny. George is the everyman. He's a character we're supposed to relate with as he goes through his struggles. Then there's Lenny, whose wise fool of sorts. Despite having a mental disability, Lenny is able to bring out the best or worst in people. Other characters include Crooks, a black man with a crooked back, hence the name Crooks, and Candy, the old and sensitive dog owner, who both represent victims of their world. Curly is a weakling. He's incredibly insecure, so he lashes out on others in an attempt to prove that he is strong. His wife, however, represents a woman who is oppressed by Curly's overbearing nature and often causes problems for the male characters because of this. Steinbeck's novel, like many other works of fiction, follows a story circle. It begins when George and Lenny stop by a lake to rest. George tells Lenny about their shared dream of someday having their own farm and getting to tend rabbits. For them, this is their moment of comfort. However, this first scene also shows us George's need. He starts getting mad at Lenny after he killed a mouse by accidentally petting it too hard. George at one point even considers that he'd likely have a much better life if he didn't have to care so much for Lenny. The two men enter the unfamiliar, represented by their new jobs at the ranch. George becomes friends with Candy, who is still trying to take care of his old dog. Eventually, Candy is forced to have someone else kill his pet after people started complaining about its stench. Meanwhile, Lenny talks to Crooks, who is clearly lonely and wants a friend to talk to. However, Crooks starts making fun of Lenny's mental disability and implies that he's unable to do anything without George. Curly doesn't like Lenny because he sees him as a threat with his incredible strength. The two of them get into a fight and Lenny goes too far, breaking Curly's hand. During the climax, Lenny starts talking to Curly's wife. After many attempts of trying to have a conversation with someone that isn't her husband, she finally makes a meaningful connection with Lenny. This moment is interrupted when she lets Lenny touch her hair. As the audience knows by now, Lenny has a tendency to hurt things he touches, so of course he starts pulling too hard and snaps her neck. Lenny freaks out and runs away, and then Candy finds her body.
Jesus Christ.
He rushes to tell George about it and tells him an important piece of advice.
I would have shot that dog myself. I should not let no stranger shoot my dog.
George knows Lenny too well and knows he left to the lake from the beginning of the story. When they meet up, George tells Lenny one last time about their dream.
Guys like us, they got no family. And they ain't got nobody in the world to give a hoot and hell about it.
But not us. That's it, George. But not us. Tell about us now.
Not us.
Because?
Because I got you.
And I got you, George. That's what that gives a hoot and hell about us. George, but tell now how it's gonna be.
We're gonna get a little place.
Good.
Okay?
Yeah, we're gonna get a little place and we're gonna have
a cow. Some pigs. We're gonna have maybe a chicken. Down the flat, we'll have a little field.
the alfalfa for the rabbits.
The rabbits.
And I get to tend the rabbits.
Steinbeck explores various themes through the course of his novel. First is the impossibility of the American dream. It's a concept coined by James Truslow Adams in 1931, a mere 6 years before Steinbeck wrote his book. It states that even the most poor and oppressed people in the United States can be rewarded with wealth and power as long as they work hard enough. Set in the backdrop of the Great Depression, the characters of Mice and Men have dreams for a better life. For example, Curly's wife tells Lenny that she met a man who promised to write her a letter to make her an actress in Hollywood. However, she believed that her mom stole it. Lenny and George also share a dream about their farm, but by the end, their dream is futile. Scenes like these force the reader to question the very validity of the American dream, if most people will never be able to reach it. Second is the predatory nature of people. In the novel, only the strongest are able to survive. Curly, who was full of insecurities about his masculinity, gets his hand broken. Another example is how Candy's dog was too old and weak to be able to work, so he gets it and puts it out of his misery. Also, Brooks is at his most powerful when he's making fun of Lenny's mental disability and his deep care for George. Finally, George is forced to kill Lenny because of all the harm he has accidentally caused to people. And finally, is a harsh reality that the deep bonds of friendship and connection will all eventually die. All the characters in Of Mice and Men are alienated from the world. Most of the characters feel incredibly lonely, and those who aren't are forced by their world to destroy those connections. This is further represented in Lenny and George's virtual utopia of friendship. The depressing truth is that none of the characters are allowed the luxury of friendship. The grim reality the characters live in tells the audience no matter how good a person is, in the end, what really matters is their usefulness to society. Personally, I believe Of Mice and Men is an essential book for people to read. Its grim look on society is a refreshing take on storytelling, when most works of fiction are more focused on having happy endings and making the viewer feel good. John Steinbeck challenges commonly accepted notions of working hard and friendship, and that is why it's still regarded over half a century later.